Hey friends, welcome to the table this morning. I am Dale. Um, it's Thursday morning, and so we are just doing a little light and like say hello to your day tarot reading. Okay. The weather has been kind of crazy. Life has been kind of crazy. And I wonder what it's like in your neck of the woods. But I just feel kind of like actually I feel kind of light this morning, but interesting because the split here is on the Four of Swords and the Nine of Swords, and that's really talking about some like I don't know if that's between two different people, like one person's in mental anguish, or there's been sort of this rebirth process, a lot of this like meditative rebirth process because of this mental anguish that's been being gone through in the past. And perhaps like this time around, things are being done a little bit differently when it comes to the thoughts. It's almost like maybe they're not really being included in the conversation as much as just kind of the feelings of. I think you're starting to realize, or people are starting to realize in general, that feelings kind of matter more than what your thoughts think about something. Okay. All right. Let's just see what we got here. We got the Nine of Wands, and that's taking pause, kind of survey like what to do next. And we've got the Magician, let's see, the Page of Cups, the Knight of Wands, and the Three of Cups. So it looks like there's some it's interesting because there's like the Four of Swords, the Nine of Swords, the Nine of Wands, those have like a feeling of negative connotation, but there's this real nice stack going on over here of stuff that seems to be working in the favor or like telling the story of what was happening of like okay, because I think this actually looking at this, it shows me that this guy's kind of looking over at this stack of stuff like, oh man, they don't even understand what responsibility is. Like, look at me, I'm over here with like I'm all wounded and I got all these things to carry, and these people are all over here like instead of actually making things work, they're like a magician and they're just like Harry Pottering their life together or whatever. And then what they get out of it is like, well, that was kind of at the bottom foundation, but what was going on was like this Page of Cups and Knight of Wands. So there's like this innocence. This will kind of like tick somebody like this off, where there's this innocence of heart where they'll like go to work and be just like, hey, but in actuality, they're actually good at their job, but you can't tell because it looks like everything that they're doing is sort of like childish or something, or just like not, they don't look like they're hustling. Okay. You know how I know what it's like to be like that. Okay, as I'm looking down at this, I put the cards back down to go and bring my dog in. And what I'm noticing most is that is the cups. It's like the Three of Cups. If I can pick it back up, I think we're gonna lose sight of what I'm looking at. But there's sort of this stack of like where the girls are holding the Three of Cups, but then I can only see the cup on the magician's table, and of course the page is holding the cup. And then the only other thing that's in here, now we had seen the swords initially, and that's what I feel. I feel like it's like these different sort of like personalities or phases or seasons that are going in, because then, the Knight of Wands is this, um, it's like this fiery, passionate energy, and I almost think that this guy is like looking like, I want to be there. I want to be there. He's having like this vision of like where there's a fun playfulness, and like there's still a belief in being a magician and you can create stuff and like talking to fish and all these different things. And this dude is like, because he's kind of looking at everybody like they're so immature. And what I was saying is like I know what it was like to be like this because I am the type that thinks that people should be moving fast and efficiently and doing things like when they're at work, they should look like they're at work. They should look like they're being serious and they're like earning their paycheck and whatever. But I used to watch this woman, and she was so good at how much she got done. And she was like a cake decorator. And I just couldn't believe how much she would get done because I'd be like hustling all day long, like trying to do everything, just doing everything that I could. And I would get to the end of my day, and me and my friend, we were bakers, and this was like at Costco, and it was like we would never get all of our stuff done. But she always looked like she was just off in La La Land, like decorating these cakes, when in actuality, it was just this sort of like facade of how she works. It's not that she wasn't actually doing that, she was doing that, but she didn't need to look stressed out. She didn't need to like look like she was hustling. She knew how long it took to get done. She had time to take her breaks, which for me, I would like, I'd be like, I am never taking a break ever, right? Or like, and it's just all foolishness. That is all just an illusion because like these people are getting it done no matter what. It's like nobody ever said that you have to go to work and act this certain kind of way. You're supposed to be going to work to get a job done. And I think that that is sort of the permission that you are allowing to give yourself if you haven't been that type of person in the past, because that's what's going on here is like this concept. It's not necessarily a man, but though it looks like it in the card, it's like he wants to give himself the freedom to, instead of look at work and life as this like drudgery of like where he's constantly doing all this stuff. He wants to just sort of take this one and go and like have fun riding a horse, like, feeling the fire and passion of life again. And so I think that that might be places that you discover within yourself of like this conversation between seriousness and like having fun, or just getting like, oh man, getting this new opportunity to look at things differently. And I don't know if you've noticed that sort of in the shift of time over the past couple of weeks, that you're being given an opportunity. I know I am for sure. It's just in different ways. It's like I'm being given a new opportunity to look at life, but it's not always easy to stay caught up with that because it's like every single day you're presented with different opportunities. Okay, you're presented with different environments. Even if you think that things are always the same, they are not. And so I would say that you might be finally noticing that the environments that you end up in every day, that like the people are a little bit different, or the surroundings are a little bit different, or I don't know, things that you thought like were your problem are starting to offer themselves up as solutions. Um, and it's not because you're doing it. Honestly, it's because you are like not going all in overboard. It's like if you have a tendency to just be somebody who reads other people's minds or like knows their feelings, a lot of times you just go and you give before somebody asks you to. Do you know? Or you just try to get in the mix of it before somebody asks you to. And I think that what you have been doing is going into like an isolation space. Um, just out of your own protection, because this world, if you get inundated with stuff going on in the world for too much, too long, it like you just can't breathe right, you can't like, I don't know. It's like you can't be immune to all the bad stuff. So what you really have to do is not just ignore the bad stuff. It's about tailoring your day to make sure that you're utilizing it in the way that you really want to, okay? And that should be to have fun. And so I think that's what's been going on, is that like you've kind of been put into positions of survival for so long that you're like, well, all I can do is have fun. And so you've really like, in these tough places that you've been in, you've still learned how to have fun for free. Okay. And so when you go into other environments where other people are, look at this, we got the King of Wands, right? So we had this Knight of Wands, now we got the King of Wands. And so that shows this like maturing level. And we have the Magician underneath it. Now I saw her 3 times already, okay? We saw the Magician in our other deck. But I saw her when I opened the box, and I forgot to mention that. And here she is showing up again. And the Tower is right under that. And so that it's just showing me that that Magician kind of like it turns that Knight of Wands into the King of Wands, but it sort of required towers to do so. And it kind of like broke you out of the place of where you felt so responsible and like so rigid, and things have to be this way, and like these type of people are the enemy to me because they take my power, right? And that's kind of what I'm talking about, is like we have those of us who have had to protect ourselves over and over again when we feel like all we're doing is giving. A lot of times it's not so much the other people in your environment that become your enemy, it's that they sort of feel like you're an enemy to them, And because you're just chill, like you've learned how to find inner peace, and a lot of people can't. And that doesn't sit right with a lot of people. Okay. And so what we've got here coming up is like we've got temperance, we've got the sun, we've got the 10 of wands, we got the 6 of cups. And again, it's like we're really seeing a lot of like wands and cups. And so I think that there has been this shift in understanding how important creativity and like friendship and a renewal of the heart space is. And that's what I think is happening here. It's like after a long, long time of sort of like being alone and carrying burdens of other, it's not necessarily people or whatever. It's just because everything that we do in this life is like a product of our own mind and how it works. Okay. So we've been thinking that we have to be the serious one and carry the burdens for other people. But it's like with time and with like pulling that out into the sun and seeing what does that actually look like? It's like this person is doing a lot of hard work and these people are just sitting there having fun playing. And yet, like, that's how people show up in the world, like at the workday. There's like, and it doesn't mean that anybody's not getting their work done or that the people who hustle are getting their work done or the people who are like that just in regular life. Because we have all these other arenas that our regular life now, like who we show up for on social media or who we show up as. And there's just so many different places in life now that can like fall out of balance. And so when I see like this concept between the knight to the king, the difference is that the king is just sitting in his place. Like the wands are fire and it's passion and it's like creativity. Whereas like the knight can, if he's on a horse, what happens to a fire if it were on a horse, right? Like the wind is feeding it and it's like this erratic fire. Also the wind can like put it out if it gets too strong. But it's like so the night has this energy like that, like where it's a little bit volatile. You don't know what to expect out of it. And but it's almost like he had to do that. He had to get that volatile energy because he was watching everybody else have fun over here from all of his wounding. And he was like, well, I want that. So he runs in towards it. And it's really still not the best way to do it, but he had to get out of there somehow. So he took this sort of like immature approach to kind of like go out and be a player, or whatever, in order to figure out that there was something way, way off with that there was still something missing very, very much. And it's like he had to go within, like the 4 of Swords that we saw at the beginning and the 9 of Swords. That's this concept of like being dying by your thoughts, like the 9 of Swords. And then the 4 of Swords is having this chance to like really meditate on a new life and come out as if you were reborn. And that's kind of what the magician here is doing. Instead of it being a magician where she's creating all this stuff, it's like she's really just going into her like third eye and internal world and figuring out what it is that she wants. And what it is that you want to shift the mindset of like from carrying all these burdens to just going and playing and having fun. And it's not a childish thing to do that. As a matter of fact, that's the wisdom of the king, is that the older and wiser that we get, the more that we realize it's like with the passing of time, the more that we realize that like what grows in the sun and how important it is. I think that you don't take sunny days for granted the older that you get and the more life that you go through. And the point, yeah, and the sun is like showing it's time to get back. It's time to get back to what feels good. And I think that you're starting to see that in the world around you, even though it's a little bit challenging because previously, even though you were kind of like cool about life and like, you deal with people well, there's still this sort of like cat inside of you. You know how cats will like arch their back and be like scared of things? I feel like that cat is inside of you from trauma from over time of things that you didn't see coming and it came unexpectedly, of like people who would just kind of attack you verbally and say that you're all kinds of bad things that you're really not. And so you're kind of still, there's a place in you that still expects that. But to be honest, I think you're finding that now you are the problem. Not really, but that your perspective and perception is the problem, that you need to upgrade it. You need to move it forward into the present day instead of being in the past, because sometimes foes become friends, right? Or like vice versa, and then back again. Um, yeah, sometimes we find our solution where the problem used to be, and that's just inevitable. That's just how it happens sometimes. And that's why it's really important not to get ever too set in your ways. So enjoy your day. I love you. I will see you again in the future. Bye.